Hi there, welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up this morning, Ghana's total debt stock expected to go up marginally for first quarter of this year after a significant drop in December 2022. Also, financial economist Professor Godfrey Bokpin expresses worry about the current structure of the International Monetary Fund support program for Ghana for the next 3 years. Meanwhile, the IMF insists Ghana's program is robust to deal with structural challenges facing the economy. We'll hear from resident representative of the fund, Dr. Leandro Medina. Details coming up. My name is Daryl Kwao. First up, Ghana's total debt stock could go up marginally for the first quarter of this year after a significant drop in December 2022. This is based on analysis of Ghana's economic data for the first 3 months of this year. Here's George Yafe.
Ghana's total debt stock witnessed one of its biggest drop in recent times. Bank of Ghana's data showed that it went down by 141 billion Ghana cedis to reach 435 billion Ghana cedis in December last year. This was not due to the debt exchange program or less borrowing by government, but just the fact that the Ghana cedi made some strong gains in December 2022 to hit 8 Ghana cedis, 57 pesos against the US dollar. This impacted on calculations of the debt numbers when it comes to converting the external debts into Ghana cedis. Well, a careful look at the first quarter exchange rate showed that from that 8 Ghana cedi range, it has reached more than 11 Ghana cedis to the dollar ending March this year. The development will change the numbers the next time that fresh total debt stock data is released by the Bank of Ghana. Ghana's total debt stock ending December last year stood at 435 billion Ghana cedis. This did not include government's commitment to some sectors of the economy, which the IMF had in the past contested as to how the debt numbers are calculated. However, now that Ghana is under an IMF program, the fund might force the Bank of Ghana to add these commitments, which will again push the debt numbers when it's published for the first quarter of this year. Some have argued that the debt exchange program would impact on the debt stock, but it might be marginal when the data is finally released by the central bank.
George Yafe there. Now, financial economist Professor Godfrey Bokpin has expressed worry about the current structure of the International Monetary Fund support program for Ghana for the next 3 years. According to him, the program, which is largely driven by revenue prescriptions, was not properly crafted because Ghana's problem is not about revenue mobilization, rather expenditure, which he says is characterized by numerous wastages and corrupt practices. Speaking on upfront on Joy News, Professor Bokpin said the way to go is for government to adopt a lean government, expect efficiency, and ensure higher value for money at all times, similar to practices of Singapore and Malaysia.
Given that we are not generating sufficient domestic revenue, and that itself is not the entire problem. And I've said this before, that if you look at the tax to GDP ratio of Malaysia, and you look at the tax to GDP ratio of Singapore, really, it has been almost below 15%. At some point in time, Ghana's tax to GDP ratio was higher than maybe Malaysia, Singapore. So you can see that Malaysia, Singapore, they have developed from lean government and efficiency and higher value for money, okay? In as much as we are encouraging government, and that is where I have a bit of a problem with the IMF program, that once your diagnosis of the problem is that we don't have a lot of revenue, that is why we run into these challenges, then the solution would also be heavily revenue-based.
The thoughts of financial economist Professor Godfrey Bokpin. Meanwhile, the IMF is insisting that Ghana's program has the required measures and policies to deal with structural challenges facing the economy. The program has come under criticisms from some analysts who have argued that it would rather leave the economy in a bad state after completion. But resident representative of the IMF, Dr. Leandro Medina, disagrees. He has been speaking on PM Express Business Edition, which airs tonight at 9 p.m.
There was a huge effort that was made by authorities taking, bold and very difficult decisions to get to this stage. We are quite confident about the strength of the program and that it will be implemented as it has been designed. I could say that commitment is there. The objectives are to, restore the macro, to get us out of the crisis, to ensure that debt go down sustainable path, to increase growth and to make it more inclusive. And Ghanaians are really looking forward to see inflation going down, to see the improvement in the management of the fiscal account, and to see more opportunities and more growth. In that sense, we are quite confident that the conditions will be met and that we are going to have a very successful path forward.
That was resident representative of the IMF, Dr. Leandro Medina. He was speaking on PM Express Business Edition, which will air tonight at 9 on the Joy News channel. While still with the IMF, former Finance Minister Seth Terkper has said that Ghana's fiscal deficit will be a key indicator monitored by the fund to examine government's adherence to financial discipline. Speaking to Joy Business, he pointed out that the monitoring will be stringent to check overspending.
And when I say performance criteria, let me give a practical example. Maybe your deficit is around 12%. You need to bring it down to 6%. So over the period of the program, when you're supposed to bring it down, or midway through the program, you may be required to be reducing the deficit by 1 percentage point every half month, or reduce it by 2%. Or whatever. So that will be an example. You may promise that you can bring SOEs and things on track so that their liabilities and things, do not weigh the economy.
Seth Terkper is former finance minister. Moving on, the Ghana Association of Banks is optimistic the banking sector will see a further recovery in the second quarter of the year when data on performance of banks are published. Speaking to Joy Business at the commissioning of the Financial Industry Command Security Operations by the Bank of Ghana, Chief Executive John Ewa said the central bank is closely working with commercial banks to strengthen the operations.
I would say so. It will not be a day and night event. It is going to be a situation where we are going to witness gradual improvement in the economic variables. We've seen inflation trending downwards. It's currently around 41%. We've seen the exchange rate also maintaining some relative stability, even in the last a few days, appreciation against the major trading currencies. So all these should point to a positive trajectory in the economic variables. With this, we are anticipating that in the coming weeks, when central bank starts their next round of the MPC and giving how the situation will be at the time, perhaps we will be looking at a different view of the monetary policy rate that should also help to trend down the other market rates.
John Ewa is Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks. Now, there is a significant shift from brick and mortar way of doing business to online operations in Ghana that needs to be monitored closely. This is according to Training and Capacity Building Manager at the West African Tax Administration Forum, Dan Asabi Ozayashi. He's therefore calling on tax administrators to improve their capacity in the use of technology to identify taxpayers and businesses that are moving the operations online.
Capacity is what we all need to have optimum revenue in our region, West Africa, and in our various countries. So geospatial analytics is something that will help us build this knowledge on locations of our taxpayers and how well their businesses are growing. If you attend this training, you will see later on that you could even monitor the activities of taxpayers, how they are growing, and you also can even map out the revenue that is collected from any particular section or part of the country. So it's very important for revenue administration, and looking at most businesses are going digital. Tax administration also needs to follow suit to go digital. In fact, you need to go ahead of them so that you can maximize revenue from these digital services.
Dan Asabi Ozayashi, Training and Capacity Manager for the West African Tax Administrators Forum. On Investor Eye today, Emmanuel Mensah-Pia, Director in charge of Risk Management Department at the Securities and Exchange Commission, speaks on the form a Ponzi scheme may take. Listen.
The way it works is that somebody sets up a scheme or does an advert, people come in, he collects their money, but the money does not go into production. It's just in a bag. So later on, when new people come in,